Ladies and gentlemen, I have 7 o'clock. I guess I should say gentlemen, one lady. This is a huge crowd, but we've got important business to take care of tonight. Appreciate you being out here, and we'll have discussion here in a second. We want to open this meeting up, call it to order at the Justice Center, and hopefully everybody's got an agenda there. And then we're going to just go right into the item for discussion, which is property tax millage rate. And we'll start off, Ms. Thomas, you give us some figures and so forth, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I'm more than 6 feet, I'm gonna, just so I can talk, you guys can hear. We advertised our 5-year history of levy and put the advertised millage rate at the rollback rate. That was advertised as 10.803 in the unincorporated area and 11.950 in the incorporated area. You guys had asked for some analysis, which I provided to you guys at the different increments. You know, trying to keep in mind that next year we will estimate that we'll have the senior exemption. There's nothing that prohibits you from going lower. You cannot go up without starting the process over, and we do not want to do that. I think we've got it on schedule. You got it scheduled Friday for them to come in. So, and again, I appreciate you guys being willing to do the meetings back to back.
Very good. I know we've been looking at this pretty closely now for some time, trying to calculate basically what we feel like would be safe for the county to move on the millage rate and so forth. And there've been some suggestions that we roll it back somewhat. So I'd like to open it up to discussion on talking in terms about the rollback we've been talking about, and let each commissioner explain why they feel maybe roll the millage rate back a little bit and still be sound and safe for our government and the citizens of the county. We know we've added on a 3% pay increase for the employees, which I've heard that they really appreciate that. We know we're going to have in November, we're going to have on the referendum about the senior citizens of upping their exemption from 10,000 to 20,000. So we know our revenue will be somewhat less in that capacity. Well, our revenue and outgo would be different. But we're getting some surprising news. Ms. Thomas has been giving us some surprising news. Tell us again how the tax flow seems to be coming.
On the sales tax side, we're seeing some, not what I expected trend. So over the last 2 months, it has been coming in higher than the last 12 months average. Now, a couple of factors in there. You got internet sales, and I don't know about you guys, but I have been going to the store far less and punching my Amazon account a lot more. So it's anticipated or assumed that there's some internet sales in there. We also have what I would assume an outflux from Atlanta into our area, utilizing our parks and our more rural atmosphere where they're able to do stuff out in the open. So we're seeing some sales tax increases. It is unknown as to whether or not that will continue, because when I looked at the last commodity report, it was increases across the boards. It wasn't in one specific area. Even hotels, motels was up from the prior month, which did not make a lot of sense to me. So it's unknown as school starts back, as people go back home, whether or not that sales tax number would increase or stay steady.
You know, this is just a speculation, but when people are confined, I got a feeling that what has happened also is a lot of our citizens are shopping in county to keep from traveling to these higher rate spots and so forth, and that should be helping us somewhat with our tax flow.
Yeah,
All right.
now there's a Dollar General on every corner.
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot more in-house, in-county shopping.
Right, sounds good.
I would also attribute it to many families having around $3,500 extra in unexpected money because of the multiple trillion dollars that the government put into our pockets. So people are spending money. I mean, I know many people that have spent money on a lot of stuff with that extra money instead of, I think, the goal, I think, was to put it in the bank for a rainy day. But a lot of people have been spending that money, some of it locally.
And the president went through executive order and sent us some additional funds for unemployed people and so forth, which is good. I guess we're talking in terms of what would be safe to roll it back. Let me hear from Dr. Michelson. You got some points?
Yeah, all those are good points, but at the end of fiscal year 2020, we had the report, and I know it's preliminary, but a lot of good information in that. The sales tax revenue is up. I think at the end of the fiscal year, at least up $50,000 over the prior year, more than was projected, and that's been consistently normal or above normal. During the health crisis, even with the courts closed, we've continued to bring in revenue. I think at the end of the fiscal year, it was around $200,000, if I remember right. The TAVT and motor vehicle revenue was about $400,000 over budget for the year. We ended the year about $1.3 million over budget in revenues and $384,000 under budget in expenses. And our year-end fund was somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.6 million reserve fund. We've also recently learned we're eligible for the CARES, through the CARES Act, for reimbursement of COVID-19 related expenses. And up front, that's around $260,000 that we can apply.
Phase one, we can get up to 30% of the allocation
Right.
for any expenditures that's spent before September 1st. Any other expenditures would have to be spent by December 1st.
Right, and we can use, if I'm correct, we probably can use those to help reimburse salaries for public safety.
Only for certain categories, and,
Right.
and the guidance from the Office of Planning and Budgeting is still coming out. I got a couple more webinars this week, so they're asking
With
us
information.
to check it daily for additional information. Anything that we spend that they determine it's not eligible on the back end, we will be required to pay back.
And we're also eligible later for an additional, $611,000 in reimbursement expenses. So, and I know also this is sort of tangential to this discussion, but we've talked about doing some sort of hazard pay for our frontline workers. Our law enforcement and our EMS workers, they are literally picking up strangers every day, and they don't know who they're coming in contact with. And not only are they at risk, but there's some risk there, an element of risk for their family members. And so I think we really need to look at using some of that additional revenue, not only to offset maybe a tax cut, but to do some sort of hazard pay. I think that's really important. Our county is doing much better financially than a lot of comparable regions or governments in this region and across the state for whatever reason. And we're doing better than citizens in the county who are facing a job loss or maybe will face a job loss. And so in light of these numbers, I feel like we need to show good faith and we need to reduce the tax burden on property owners. We're Republicans, we're for smaller government, we're for reduced taxes. But if we don't reduce taxes now, realistically, when are we going to reduce taxes? We're able to do so, and I'm not talking about a drastic cut because I know we've got to fund the government, but we can make a marginal tax cut that will really help people, especially in light of other governments that may be going to raise taxes. And I think that a quarter mil reduction off of the rollback rate is something we can afford, and that will help some people, and it's not going to put us in a dangerous situation as we face the coming year. And so I'm in favor of that. I would be in favor of a quarter mil reduction off of the rollback rate.
I know that's what we've been talking about a quarter of a mil rollback in our revenue, so to speak. Now, we are dipping into reserves, which is, we need to build reserves about double what we have, but we're dipping into that, and we basically got some good projects that we need to take care of. One of them is dressing up the courthouse square up there that, I believe you've been, talking to the engineer and so forth to look at how we want to decorate that. Well, I'm all for doing what we can afford to do, and, I'd like to hear from other commissions.
I would be in support of that, to the degree that I want us all to be mindful of the uncertainty we faced not long ago. It was weird times. We were all trying to figure things out, and although somehow we've been mostly insulated as a county, we're not an island. I think we're starting to see in other communities layoffs. We're seeing places like Athens and Toccoa suffering, and it will affect us eventually. In some form or fashion, it will begin to affect our community if it continues, which I hope it doesn't. I really hope it doesn't. This influx of money that we've kind of seen from the government, it may continue, it may not. But right now, I kind of look at that as not something to count on. So all I would say is that if we do go down this road, I think we all would probably consider ourselves fiscally conservative, that we are especially mindful in the coming months about the future decisions we're making, so that we're not in a situation where we do have to stick the taxpayers with an additional millage rate increase, just because of compounding things that we've kind of seen, whether it be this deduction or the senior exemption. That, I think that's a great thing that we did for our seniors. I don't have a problem with that either. But this is real money. This is their money, and we don't know. There's still going to be a lot of questions going forward. So I don't have a problem with it at this point. I would just say that let's be very thoughtful. I don't think it's a lot to say. We should be very thoughtful going forward as well with these decisions.
I think that was well said. In other words, if we make this decision tonight, in other words, be very mindful here in the next few months. And I think it's going to hinge up on exactly where things will keep getting better, or where we have to shut things down again.
Let's all pray that things keep getting better.
That's certain. Commissioner Weston, you got anything?
I think I've spoke to everybody in years past that, whether we were talking about accepting inflationary rate or whatever, that I was all for rolling back to give our property owners some kind of break. And I think, this year would be, I ain't gonna say ideal situation, but I think this is probably the best opportunity that we've got to do, a quarter of a mil. And I know it's not a lot, but it is some that helps to some extent with what they've been having to pay with the county and everything. I do think, if we go this route and we do decide to reduce the quarter of a mil, I think we do need to continue to be good stewards, and we do need to continue to be mindful of what we do in the coming months, and I think we should be that way for the coming years. But, one thing, if you talk to the citizens of the county, one of the things that they're gonna tell you the most is they get hammered with taxes. Right. And, I just think that, I know we're not dropping it a full meal and things like that, because, realistically, that's just not possible, and I think we'd all agree with that. But I do think a quarter of a meal is the possibility to go with them to help lessen that burden, and show them that, we want to be good stewards of your money, and we want to help you out every chance that we can too.
Very well said. Commissioner Franklin, you want to comment?
I'm in favor of quarter of a meal and reduce, help the citizens like my colleagues have talked about. I'm in favor of that. help the people in this county. Franklin County is a good county, and I think we need to do all we can do to help the citizens of Franklin County.
Very good, very good. I think we're also on the same page. We want to look out our citizens of the county. We want to maintain a strong government financially and a strong economical situation, and hopefully we can make the right decision tonight, rolling it back a quarter per meal and keep our hopes up that things will still stabilize. But I'm really impressed with what the revenue's been showing us recently. And this CARE Act, they will get some additional funds to help out our employees and people that's on the front line and so forth, so on to help us. And I feel safe, I think, to move forward with that. So, saying all that, I'm gonna ask for a motion. Somebody make a motion that we roll our millage back a quarter of a meal.
Are we gonna actually vote on it tonight?
The vote on your millage will be
Okay.
tonight. Tomorrow will be the tax
The whole
resolution
thing.
that has all.
Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow night, tonight, just setting our own, and then we'll meet again tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, and Ms. Thomas will bring us what the Board of Education presents to us and the IBA, and we'll pass it and create it out and digest tomorrow night.
Okay, well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we set the unincorporated tax rate at 10.553 mils and the incorporated tax rate at 11.704 mils, and this would be a quarter mil reduction off of the rollback rate.
Thank you. Commissioner Maxson makes a motion that we roll back a quarter on both. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner West seconds that motion. Now that we won't have any other discussion, please speak up. Any discussion about this, Jim?
May I get those numbers one more time, because that's different than the quarter mil that I calculated?
The 10.553 for the unincorporated rate and 11.704 for the incorporated rate or incorporated district.
So
Did
what
you
we
say you
do?
have a different rate?
Yeah, I do. I gotta make sure that the differential between those two is the same as the insurance rollback rate.
This would be a quarter off of, you do the rollback rate and then a quarter in addition to that. So it's quarter from the starting point is the rollback rate.
Did you take that off the gross before, or did you take it off the net rate? Because the differential, I would just have to adjust the insurance premium on.
Is that, would that work to,
That's off of the, that's off the rollback rate,
okay.
but Dan's absolutely correct on the insurance premium, it could skew those numbers.
Okay, well, I'm willing to adjust it if you,
So what we've used on the insurance rollback is a millage rate of 1.147, which has been consistent over the
Mhm.
years. So as that number increases, we've been taking that as revenue, so we roll it back. So that needs to be the differential between your two numbers.
Okay.
Is 1.147. So,
what would that put us at for both of those?
if you, which way you wanna go with it? Hold just a second.
It
So
looks
I
like
think
it'll be
we're
11.7
clear that we're rolling it back a quarter of a meal. You know,
I think that works out to be 11.7 for the incorporated rate.
You said 11.7?
If it's 1.147, that works out to be 11.7, which actually brings those numbers closer together.
So it'd be 10.553 and 11.7.
You do the math as well, Beth, make sure.
I've done it back and forth. I didn't get the same numbers at you at first, but I do have them now.
Okay, so I'll amend that motion then to set the unincorporated rate, tax millage rate at 10.553 and the incorporated rate at 11.700.
Good, good. Okay, we're all on the same page. Any other discussion?
I have one suggestion, Mr. Bridges, if I might.
Yes,
Since the IBA is a division of the Board of Commissioners and the local government rather than the school board, I believe since we've done the advertising that you're establishing your millage rates tonight, you need to go ahead with the IBA. That's my opinion as far as complying with Department of Revenue.
right. Well, in other words, you suggest go ahead and do the IBA.
I would, because we advertised that the Board of Commissioners is setting their millage rate tonight. That's been advertised.
Okay,
Since the IBA is a division of the county government rather than the school board, I believe it'd be prudent to go ahead and do that tonight.
Do we know what their rate is?
Shane attended a quarter meal. They were going to keep it
So
the
it's the
same. And I
same.
did receive a text from the director earlier that said that they set it at a quarter meal.
Well, should we do that as a separate motion or together?
And we've done it separate in the past few years.
Okay.
yeah, let's go ahead and complete this motion, and then we'll come back with the IBA of 0.25%. If there's no other discussion, all in favor of that, please raise your right hand. All 5 commissioners vote to go with that. Now let's talk about the IBA. I think been discussed, they asked him for a quarter of a meal like always. In other words, they're leaving it the same. That's what they had this past year. Do I have a motion? We'll go ahead and set that at 0.25.
I'll make a motion that we set the millage rate reduction 0.25.
Commissioner Wells makes that motion that we'll go ahead and set that tonight at 0.25 for IBA. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Franklin. Seconds that motion. Now, any discussion?
And now they've left that at a quarter for several years now. And
That's right.
haven't come to us to try and raise that, so.
They've actually held steady until now.
Well, did they not also agree about the senior tax exemption, that they would provide that exemption on that quarter meal too?
I don't know the answer.
Maybe, yes.
Okay. I thought I'd heard that, but wasn't sure.
Yeah. Any other discussion? All in favor? We got a 5-0 vote there to go with the IBA. So tomorrow night, we're going to be dealing here at 7 o'clock again, and we'll see what the Board of Education comes and presents to us. Excuse me. By law, you know, we have to adopt what they present to us. So we'll wait and see what they present, and then we'll act on that. So Mr. Martin can get started on his end of it, so to speak. Now, I didn't put anything under, didn't put announcements down there, but we always make announcements. Commissioner Webb.
Is it appropriate for us to have a conversation regarding the CARES Act and potential spending for that, or does that have to occur in a different?
Well, the announcement that we left off there, I think it'd be probably not a proper to
Not in this one.
add discussions on items that we don't have down here, like the CARES Act. But I think we can talk individually as we break up if you have some comments. And I've met with Ms. Thomas on that, and I would suggest that when you get an opportunity to discuss it with her, because we're looking at all the phases of the CARES Act and how we can utilize to help our county in that situation.
Yes, sir. And if we wanted to amend the agenda tomorrow evening, you could do that and put that on the agenda, but just because it would be a discussion more than an announcement, I wouldn't recommend tonight.
And if you have any other things that you want to say, Commissioner, I'm gonna ask for adjournment, and then we won't be breaking any rules and regulations. I did have one piece of information I'd like to pass on to the commission, but I'll do it after we adjourn. Do I have a motion with adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner West makes a motion. Second?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Dr. Michelson makes a second on that. All in favor of adjourn? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.